My best friend went insane with jealousy over my life as a billionaire's wife. And then, she decided to seduce my husband, hoping to take my place. But what she didn't know was that this would be the beginning of her worst nightmare. I'm Victoria. If you've ever been stabbed in the back by someone jealous of you, watch until the end. Like and share if you've ever been betrayed by the person you thought was your closest friend. And comment below, what would you do if you were in my shoes? It all started on a lazy afternoon stroll with my best friend, Riley Scott. We were walking slowly, soaking in the city vibe, when suddenly, this YouTuber guy with a glittery microphone dashed toward us like he'd just found a treasure. "Excuse me, what do you do for a living?" he asked, camera pointed straight at me, his eyes wide with that look of someone chasing a viral scoop. Riley, always quick with her words, jumped in before I could answer, her tone less than friendly. "Full-time housewife." I took off my sunglasses, nodded calmly in agreement. The guy didn't back down and kept going. "So what's your typical daily routine like?" Behind my mask, I smiled gently and said, "Dancing, beauty treatments, aesthetic care, traveling to different countries." His eyes went blank, mouth slightly open, as if someone had just told him I ate diamonds for breakfast. I could feel this weird silence spreading around us. He took a deep breath, trying to stay composed, and pressed on. "So may I ask, how much do you earn per month?" Riley, clearly annoyed, cut in again. "Didn't you hear? She's a full-time housewife. What salary are you even talking about?" I nodded in agreement, not arguing, but the reporter shifted his question. "Then how much do you spend in a month?" I twirled a strand of hair around my finger and replied casually, "I spend however much I want, but on average, it takes at least over $500,000 just to cover the basics." Instantly, the nearby office crowd, with their takeaway coffees and work bags, clenched their fists, faces turning red like I just slapped their dreams across the street. The reporter took another deep breath and asked again, "Then what's the biggest challenge you've ever faced in life?" I tilted my head up, gazing at the sky, and stayed quiet for 3 whole minutes, leaving him there on the sidewalk with a face that looked like it was collapsing. "There has to be something that didn't go your way, right?" he pleaded. I blew lightly on my freshly done nails and said lazily, "Sure." Like, not picking up dance moves fast enough, or forgetting steps sometimes. The look on his face, wide eyes, crooked mouth, almost made me laugh out loud. He started getting more aggressive, digging into my family background like he was doing a criminal investigation. City-born, only child, owning 2 luxury apartments, kids enrolled in premium daycare, house chores handled by a part-time nanny. And me? Just in charge of eating well and having fun. His voice got weaker, then he gave a forced laugh and asked the final question. "So, how old are you now?" Since I was still wearing a mask, only my clear, spotless eyes showed. No wrinkles, nothing. I blinked and smiled. "Over 40. And right then, everything around me shattered. Except me. The reporter dropped his mic. The crowd around us started murmuring in shock, and Riley clapped her hands, giggling like crazy. After that interview clip aired on that guy's YouTube channel, I sat back and waited for the storm. I imagined a flood of harsh comments like, "So fake," or "Get real, sis," followed by an army of internet sleuths digging through my profile to figure out where I went to school, when I got married. But nothing. Instead, the comment section was filled with envious remarks like, "Wish I could live like her, carefree and fabulous," or "Over 40, but looks like." "She's in her 20s. What's her secret?" Not a single person questioned my age. They believed it wholeheartedly, like I'd just revealed the secret to eternal youth. That afternoon, the doorbell rang, soft but persistent, like a gentle reminder that the world was still turning. It was Riley Scott, my best friend. Or at least that's what she called herself. She walked into my house looking worn out, holding a cheap designer knockoff handbag. She always bragged about being authentic. Her hair a mess, like she had sprinted straight from the office. "Victoria, you really nailed the reincarnation game," she sighed, collapsing into my soft Italian leather sofa, the sound of fabric rustling beneath her weight. I gave a non-committal murmur, not bothering to reply, and took a sip of hot latte, the warmth sliding down my throat, its aroma filling the vast living room. I kept scrolling through my homepage. My latest video from the Maldives barely had 100,000 views, and likes hadn't even reached 20,000. Riley leaned in, her breath faintly minty from gum, and asked curiously, "Victoria, you still care about the numbers?" I locked the screen and turned to her with a half smile, like sharing a secret. "Not really. I just like watching how jealous people get. Adds a little spice to this laid-back life." She let out a long, "Oh," then reached for the canapés on the coffee table, golden brown with crispy shells and soft honey vanilla scented centers that made the room feel sweeter. Riley stuffed two into her mouth, chewing greedily, eyes half closed in bliss. "Your pastries are amazing. That cannelle mold must have cost a fortune, huh?" I laughed lightly, voice breezy. "You've got great taste, Riley. Well, it's not that big of a deal." Then I pretended not to notice her phone screen open to an image search, probably checking the price of the mold, trying to compare it with her life. The truth is, Riley's been a fan of mine ever since I posted a few stories about my daily life. We live in the same city, got to know each other, and eventually she started calling herself my best friend, a one-sided label I never bothered correcting. She leaned against my shoulder, whining in a voice as sweet as syrup. "Victoria, you're so good to me. Being your fan is seriously the best thing ever." I glanced down at her hand, resting gently on my shoulder, her skin rougher than mine despite all the creams I use, then smiled and patted the back of her hand, a warm yet distant gesture. I didn't reply, just took another sip of coffee, letting the moment drift by with the soft jazz music playing from the Bose speakers. Riley went quiet for a while, then suddenly asked, voice trembling slightly like she was testing the waters, "Victoria, you're so accomplished. Your family must be amazing. I don't have many friends, and I was wondering if maybe you'd let me get to know your family." The smile on my lips slowly faded as I looked her straight in the eyes, cold, unblinking, and suddenly the room felt heavier. Riley visibly flinched, shoulders stiffening, mouth fumbling as if trying to take back her words. But I said softly, voice calm but layered with meaning, "Sure." She froze, eyes lighting up. I immediately booked a table at the restaurant and introduced her to my husband, Derek Zane. That evening, as we sat around a glossy walnut table with foie gras melting on our tongues and the sound of violins softly echoing from the corner of the room, I turned the dinner into my own personal performance. Throughout the meal, I kept bragging about my husband. "Derek, love, tell Riley about your work," I began, my hand gently stroking his arm, feeling the smooth silk of his shirt beneath my fingertips. Derek smiled, that familiar doting smile, the kind that used to make my heart flutter when we first got married, and replied in his warm, deep voice, "Oh, it's nothing special, just CEO of the city's biggest financial firm. Great benefits, flexible hours, and I'm lucky enough to come home to the most wonderful wife." I chimed in, eyes sparkling. "That's not all. He's also incredibly kind. Never once made me worry about anything. And look at him. So handsome, so charming. Who wouldn't be jealous of me?" Derek laughed out loud and leaned in to kiss my cheek, his breath warm and scented with Creed Aventus. But Riley? Her smile froze mid-face, like a wax figure stuck in the middle of being molded. Her lips pressed so tight, I could see the veins throbbing at her temples. Previously, in her roundabout conversations, she had hinted things like, "Your husband must be just average, right?" I mean, at that age, most men are tired all the time. Little did she know Derek stood tall at 6 feet 1 inch, jet black hair neatly combed, wearing a Tom Ford suit that hugged a still-toned body, thanks to his private training sessions. He wasn't just rich. He spoiled me so much, it made other women around us bite their lips in envy. And worst of all, he looked so young, his eyes bright like a 30-year-old, not a man of his age. I could hear her mutter under her breath, so quiet it nearly vanished under the clink of cutlery. Why does she get everything? Why her? I just smiled and took a sip of burgundy red wine, the bitterness blooming on my tongue. Right after that, she didn't even try to hide it anymore. Pulled out her phone, blatantly asked to scan Derek's Instagram code right in front of me. Derek agreed cheerfully. While scanning, Riley shot me a look, deliberately smug and provocative, but she didn't notice the quick glance exchanged between me and Derek. That night, as the sun dipped behind glittering skyscrapers, I made an excuse about catching a flight for a trip. A quick shopping run in Paris, I said, and left the two of them home alone. I knew exactly what was about to unfold, like reading a script I'd written myself. Riley was attractive, with her wavy brown hair and yoga-toned curves, and Derek was the kind of man women found appealing. A few days later, they would obviously start keeping in touch more frequently. Late-night texts like, "Thinking about our dinner the other night," heart emojis from Riley, and Derek responding politely, just enough to keep the fire going. She wasn't just trying to seduce my husband. Riley also took advantage of my absence to charm my daughter and mother-in-law, spinning her web like a careful little spider. She made a point to ask about everyone's likes and habits. My daughter, a 16-year-old student at a prestigious Ivy League feeder school, obsessed with Japanese culture, pastel highlighters, and limited edition stationery. My mother-in-law, a retired teacher with a collection of expensive organic supplements and glittering diamond jewelry, designer bags. Riley spared no expense to impress them, buying gifts as if investing in a golden opportunity. Derek was pleased, even letting her wear my silk nightgowns, then took her to our king-size wedding bed with Egyptian satin sheets, where our nights used to burn with passion, and made love to her under the soft glow of our crystal chandelier. Riley thought she had won. She thought she'd taken my place, thought she had become the woman of this house. To better care for my family, she even quit her steady office job, didn't bother asking for severance. But right before the day I returned, my daughter looked at Riley, who was fumbling to tie on an apron to cook something, and frowned. "Riley, why are you still here?" That sentence, like a tiny but razor-sharp blade, sliced right through Riley's smugness. I wasn't there, but I could picture her smile freezing midair, her clumsy hands stopping halfway through the knot, her eyes flashing with panic like someone just got slapped in the middle of a crowd. My daughter, in the ruthless innocence of teenage years, didn't realize she had just shattered Riley's entire fantasy. The day I came back, our villa was glowing with lights. The scent of frangipani from the garden floated in the air, and the whole family threw a welcome home party. My daughter, like a little chirping bird, threw herself into my arms the moment I stepped through the door, her lavender-scented hair brushing my cheek. "Mommy, was your trip fun? Did you bring me any souvenirs?" she asked, her eyes sparkling, hands clinging tightly, like she was afraid I'd disappear again. I smiled, kissed her cheek, her skin soft like flower petals against my lips, then turned to pull out several beautifully wrapped gift bags. My husband Derek, my mother-in-law, and my daughter each got their own present. And then I turned to Riley, who was standing quietly by the door, holding a pocket camera, busy recording vlog footage for me. She wore a wine-red bodycon dress, but her eyes looked lost, like an uninvited guest. I smiled and walked over, handing her a small gift bag wrapped in shiny silver paper. Inside the house, Derek, my mother-in-law, and my daughter acted as if they didn't know Riley at all. Not a single glance, not a single word, like she'd never set foot in this house. I could almost hear her grinding her teeth, a faint but sharp sound, like a crystal glass about to crack. After the party, I deliberately invited Riley out for Japanese food at a fancy sushi restaurant, where slices of fresh salmon were laid on ebony wood trays and the scent of grilled Kobe beef filled the air. "Thanks for helping me film the vlog," I said, lifting a cup of sake, my eyes twinkling like I was sharing a secret. As the waiter walked away after grilling the beef, Riley suddenly tilted her head back and gulped down several mouthfuls of sake. Then she turned to me, glaring, eyes red like she was about to cry. "You knew Derek and I had slept together, didn't you? You did all of this on purpose. Everything was your plan." Her voice cracked, shards of sound hitting the floor like glass. "You really believed they wouldn't betray you? Your whole family treated me like a joke, didn't they?" I looked at her, messy hair, flushed cheeks from the alcohol, wild yet lost eyes, and for a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. I took a sip of warm water, the heat spreading down my throat, and said gently, voice calm like I was recounting some old story, "Guys who work in R&D like Derek Zane, sure, their salaries are high. But the workload, usually, their health doesn't hold up so well, right?" Riley swayed as she looked at me, face flushed, eyes dull from alcohol and rage. She muttered, her voice trembling like she was trying to convince herself, "Derek's perfectly healthy. Not weak at all. Way better than my ex." Then she slumped over the table, whispering, "It must be. Must be because his family is rich. He gets better care. That's why he's still like that." I sighed and signaled for the bill. I looked at Riley, her head down on the table, hair falling over her face that had lost all its confidence. It looked like it'd be a long time before she finally woke up. After losing her job, Riley didn't look for a new one. Instead, she gathered all her savings, surely not a small amount, but never enough, and rented an apartment in a gated condo complex in Beverly Hills, where I lived in a penthouse with windows overlooking the sparkling skyline. She scrutinized every item in my Instagram videos, from the La Mer moisturizer to the Hermes Birkin bag I casually showed off in a story. Then she tried to imitate it all, like a little girl playing dress-up. High-end cosmetics, designer dresses, expensive handbags. She bought them all, or at least the cheaper versions that could fool untrained eyes. Under the shimmering streetlights of the upscale neighborhood, Riley walked with her curled hair, heels clacking, and a fake confident smile, as if she was born to belong here. At first, her little game seemed to work. A few ladies in the area, the type who loved to gossip about new faces, chatted with her at afternoon teas or charity events at the clubhouse. But after just a few encounters, they began to see through her. Beneath the glitzy shell, Riley had nothing to offer. No social network, no valuable information, not even an interesting story. She was just a shadow trying to mimic someone else's light. Soon enough, the invitations stopped. The glances turned away, and Riley was left alone, like a misplaced decoration in a lavish room. She panicked, desperate, hopping from event to party, trying to squeeze into group chats of rich housewives, but only met with cold silence. Eventually, one night, she couldn't take it anymore. She got drunk, wandering the neighborhood like a ghost. Security found her, and I arrived just in time, stepping out of a sleek black Mercedes Maybach, the streetlight glinting off my fiery red Louboutin heels. "She's my friend," I said to the guards, calm but with enough authority to make them retreat immediately. Riley looked up groggily, her eyes dull beneath mascara-streaked lashes, her voice hoarse like she'd cried all night. "It's you!" I helped her sit on a bench by the lawn, the scent of freshly cut grass lingering in the cool air. "So, how are those new social circles going?" I asked, voice gentle with a hint of mockery. Riley glanced at me, scoffing, her breath heavy with alcohol. "Not great. All the tricks I picked up from you don't work on those ladies." She leaned back, swaying, holding up her hand as if counting examples, her fingers trembling like they were clinging to the last bit of sobriety. "Mrs. Wilder in that mansion, worth billions, always looking for business deals, finding more clients for her husband. Patricia in the villa opens her mouth, and it's all about kids. Summer camp at Cambridge, Ivy League offers. She waved her hand, hiccuped, her voice cracking. I didn't get a word of it, couldn't help with anything, and they tossed me out after just a few sentences. I dragged out my voice, pretending to be surprised. Really? She looked at me, eyes red and voice shaky. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I thought being a rich man's wife meant being happy every day, so I didn't prepare at all before quitting my job. I tapped her nose lightly with my finger, nails gleaming red, and smiled. It's not that I didn't tell you. It's just, I never needed to do any of those things. Riley's eyes widened, like I'd slapped her again. She muttered, as if piecing together broken memories. Right, that's right. You didn't look after your kid, didn't care about your husband's work. You just ate, played, and lived in luxury. Suddenly, as if sobered by rage, she nearly lunged at me, screaming until her throat tore. Then why? Why do women richer and more powerful than you still run around stressing, while you don't have to care about a thing, just sit there enjoying life? I laughed, sharp and clear in the still night air. Yeah, why? I said. Why does Derek Zane work his ass off making money, just so I can stay home and relax? Why did my parents slave away their whole lives to buy property, just so I could live off it without ever working? Why do other people plan every step for their kids, while I just travel and leave my daughter be? I leaned close to her ear and whispered, my warm breath brushing her skin. Don't you think something's off about all that? Riley screamed, voice torn and frayed like a cloth being ripped apart. It's because you were lucky. You were born their daughter. You were spoiled by them. I stood up, brushed off my dress, and shook my head in tired disappointment, like a teacher looking at a student who just doesn't get it. Can't be saved, I said, voice cold as stone. You didn't bother thinking. Even ancient kings, men who had everything, still longed for immortality. I'm just a regular woman with some money. How could I? Possibly live in absolute luxury, have every desire fulfilled, never trip even once in life. Her pupils quivered, looking up at me. I gave her a wide smile, my eyes sparkling like gemstones. Stupid. You even believed my internet persona. Then just keep believing. Then I turned and walked away. A CT6. Riley disappeared for 2 days, then came storming back to my house. The villa door burst open, like a curtain rising on the next act of a play. Riley stood there. She pointed straight at my daughter, who was leaning against the kitchen doorway with a strawberry smoothie in hand, and screamed, You're not even some Ivy League feeder school student, are you? I spent a fortune buying you all that fancy stationery, and it turns out you're just a TikTok blogger sharing aesthetic notebook spreads? My daughter, with her high ponytail and sharp eyes, crossed her arms and gave a smirk so cold it could make anyone shiver. Riley froze, mouth gaping, as if she'd just been slapped with the very money she had spent. The girl shrugged, took a sip from her smoothie, the crushed ice clinking in the glass, then turned and walked away, leaving Riley flushed with rage. But she wasn't done. She whirled around toward my mother-in-law, who was sitting on the Italian leather sofa, wearing the same diamond necklace Riley once gifted her, and snapped, And you! So all those jewelry pieces and designer bags you made me buy were just for you to pose in ads for your Amazon shop for middle-aged fashion, huh? My mother-in-law, her silver hair neatly curled, rotated her wrist slightly, the diamond on her finger catching the chandelier light. She smiled, speaking with a calm tone, like she was talking about the weather. Well, yes and no. I do enjoy wearing them, so I'd wear them either way. Finally, Riley turned to face me and Derek, standing side by side in the spacious living room. It was a weekday, and yet it was nearly noon, and Derek was still home, 2 buttons undone on his white shirt, hair slightly tousled, that easy smile of someone who clearly wasn't worried about office hours. Anyone with a brain could put 2 and 2 together, but Riley clung to her last sliver of hope. She looked at Derek, her voice shaking like she was begging for light. You're real, right? Derek smiled, his perfect white teeth gleaming in the sunlight, and calmly pulled out his phone. The screen lit up like a mirror of truth. He held it up to Riley, and the second she glanced at it, her eyes darkened. On the screen, the man she once believed to be a corporate executive was unbuttoning his shirt, hips swaying confidently in a TikTok video, his eyes flirtatious and full of flair, the stage lighting casting seductive shadows on every contour of his body. Riley took a step back, hand covering her mouth like she'd just seen the devil. I stepped forward, stroking my chin, nodding with a voice as soft as it was razor sharp. He's a hot streamer who dances seductively online. You even scrolled past him once, remember? Riley nearly broke down, tears streaming down her cheeks, smudging her mascara. It was so dark in the video, and he was moving like a snake. How was I supposed to recognize him? Derek, standing beside me, immediately scowled, huffing in offense, clearly unhappy to have his smooth moves compared to a snake. At last, Riley's terrified gaze slowly drifted toward me. I bared my teeth in a wide grin, as if inviting her into one final secret. "Don't be scared," I said. "Even if my image is fake, the money is very real." Riley nodded frantically, stammering, That I know." But then she stepped back, her eyes widening like she'd seen a monster. "The more I think about it, the scarier it is." She trembled, voice cracking. "These past few days, everything was your plan. You let me in on purpose, even encouraged that sexy streamer guy to play along. And your whole family, every one of you, is fake." I smiled, stepped forward, and lightly patted her hand, just like I always did. Her skin felt ice cold under my fingers. "Don't worry," I said, voice light as the breeze. "I just needed to borrow your hands for a little while." Riley stood frozen, mouth wide open, like her entire world had just crumbled beneath her feet. At 6 a.m. the next morning, Riley showed up at my house, carrying a bag of fresh groceries, her hair tied up high, but her eyes dark and sunken, like she hadn't slept all night. She stood in the kitchen, quietly preparing breakfast. I held the camera, the lens zooming in on her every move with the precision of someone filming art. She plated the food at the table where my mother-in-law, husband, and daughter were already seated. I peered through the lens, nodded approvingly, voice full of amusement. "Looks real, scarily real." Riley's hands and mine were nearly identical. The very first time we met in person at an offline fan event, when she grabbed my hand for a photo, I noticed slender fingers, red polish, and the way she held her coffee cup was just like me. Right then, I saw her ambition, her desire to replace me, written all over her eager face and envious eyes. I pretended to welcome her, opened the door wide. But truthfully, I had already laid the trap, and she, like a dutiful actress, fell into each step without ever messing up the filming schedule by a single day. Riley bent over, placing one dish at a time on the table. Golden fried eggs, crispy toast, and a vibrant green salad with shimmering vinaigrette. She looked completely drained. Just as she was about to wipe her forehead, I spoke up, reminding her, "You need to make it look effortless." Riley clenched the tray, eyes blazing as if she wanted to scream at me. "I cooked for 2 straight hours. It's only natural I'm tired," she snapped, voice trembling. I tilted my head, smiled sweetly, like soothing a child. "It's a script, just a script. Bear with it, okay? Suffer a little now, and we'll make money later." Riley took a few deep breaths, shot me a burning glare, then gave in and got back to work. She straightened up, fixed her hair, forced a bright smile, and gently placed the final dish on the table, like she'd just walked out of a graceful afternoon tea and not spent 2 sweaty hours in the kitchen. I zoomed in, capturing every detail, the way her fingers brushed lightly along the rim of the plate. She had no idea that I was never good at cooking, never even bothered to learn. I was busy coming up with concepts, editing footage, running a YouTube channel with millions of followers, and I needed someone to be my stand-in for this image shift. Riley, now unemployed, drained of her savings after her reckless days in the Beverly Hills condo, was the perfect fit. I made her an offer, play the stand-in in faceless cooking videos to help me build the image of a super homemaker, still luxurious, but effortlessly domestic. She, with her hands that looked just like mine and no better option, nodded and agreed. At the end of the shoot, Riley collapsed onto the Italian leather sofa, legs stretched out. She panted, voice weak. "Why don't you just keep filming those fancy lady videos like before?" "Why go through all this?" I sat across from her, scrolling my phone to check the latest view count, not even looking up. The game's changed. Why shouldn't the video concept change too? These days, the economy's tight, job stress is overwhelming. A lot of women are either forced or choosing to return home. This effortless homemaker model gives them something to relate to, or at least a little comfort. Riley snapped back, her tone sharp but exhausted. That's not true. There are still plenty of women who want to build careers. Not everyone wants to become the perfect little housewife. I finally looked up and glanced at her, my lips curling into a mocking smile. Riley's face instantly turned red, like she just realized the irony in her own words. She, the one who quit her job, wanted to marry a billionaire, now suddenly talking about career development? After several days of non-stop filming, the video metrics skyrocketed like a rocket launch. Right as the trad wife movement exploded on TikTok and Instagram, my rich wives becoming housewives effect got pushed by the algorithm, and views and engagement soared. Comments flooded in beneath the videos. "Even billionaire wives have to budget now. I've got even more reason to stick with Pinduoduo." I quickly added some affiliate shopping links, from kitchen tools to home decor, then started negotiating with brands to sell products. Every time my phone pinged with a commission notification, I smiled and thought to myself, "Riley, thank you for working so hard to help me make money." Riley, standing in the kitchen in an emerald silk apron, holding a wooden spoon still dripping vinaigrette, couldn't take it anymore. She turned to me, eyes blazing, voice trembling with indignation. "You've completely destroyed the image of being the wife of a rich man." I, sitting on a bar stool checking new metrics on my phone, didn't even look up, just shrugged. What image? That fake internet persona? "Riley, haven't you learned anything yet?" Chloe, my daughter, jumped up beside Riley, her high ponytail bouncing, her smile mischievous like a kid who just won a game. "Oh, please, just do what she says. You can't go wrong." She patted Riley's shoulder, a quick, playful motion, like comforting a lost puppy. Derek, leaning against the doorway with 2 buttons undone on his shirt, chimed in with the deep, warm voice he used in those million-view videos. "Victoria nails every trend. She knows exactly what people want to see." He winked at Riley, his dazzling white teeth catching the light. Riley stood frozen, gripping the wooden spoon tight, her face flushed red. She looked around, at Chloe, at Derek, and at mother-in-law Judith, who was just stepping out from the back room, the diamond bracelet on her wrist flashing as she turned it. Riley screamed, her voice cracking. "But you're not even her real family! Why are you all playing along?" She stood there like a wild animal cornered, her eyes filled with rage and despair, as if the whole world was mocking her. Judith, her silver hair neatly curled, smiled kindly, but her gaze was sharp like a queen's. "She's our boss. She pays us," she said, lifting her hand so the light hit the diamond. Then she continued, "She even helped me land more jobs. My middle-aged fashion line on Amazon? That's all thanks to Victoria's connections." Judith walked over and sat on the sofa. Her tone softened, like recounting an old story. "Over 3 years ago, I lost a huge chunk of my retirement to a scam selling organic supplements. I didn't dare tell my kids, so I posted an ad with my photo online, offering to do housework. Victoria saw the post, said I had the aura of a powerful woman, and invited me to play the mother-in-law role. She taught me how to shoot videos, how to model, even shares a percentage with me." She turned to me, eyes twinkling. "Victoria, I've actually saved quite a bit already." I kept a straight face, clapped once as if to end the scene. Good job. Just don't get scammed again. Riley turned to Chloe, her voice shaky with curiosity. And you? How did you get in? Chloe stuck out her tongue, grinning cheekily. I sucked at school. My notes were pretty and colorful, but I'd always flunk the exams. I couldn't get into college, and my family didn't want to waste money on me anymore. Then Victoria saw my study notes and selfies from high school on TikTok, thought I looked young, and pulled me in to play the daughter role, planned out a whole blogger arc for me. She even tutors me so I can eventually get my degree. The girl skipped around, but I gently pushed her aside. Chloe, don't stand too close to me. It's hot. Riley looked like she was about to lose it, screaming, voice tearing like ripped fabric. So in the end, I was the only one who didn't know? The only one who got played? Derek, who'd been silent the whole time, finally spoke up. Not true. Me too. He winked at Riley, a slick move like an actor on stage. Riley, thinking she already understood Derek, fell into the trap once again. She pointed at him, shouting, What? You used to leech off girlfriends, dated around, and even used their photos to blackmail them for spending money. Derek panicked, waving his hands. Shh! Keep your voice down. Why are you yelling? Riley looked like she wanted to slap him, her hand raised but paused midair. When we slept together, did you record it? I cut in coldly, voice like ice. No. In this house, he's not allowed. I let you two sleep together because you wanted to, not so he could use it for blackmail. Derek sighed and slumped onto the sofa, his hair a mess like he'd just survived a storm. Ugh. Back in college, I tried to scam her sister and got caught. She rounded up my exes who had beef with me, filed a group complaint. I almost ended up in court. In the end, I had to pay damages, issue a public apology, delete all the clips. Thank God they never went viral, or she would have had me jailed. Riley asked cautiously. Then shouldn't you two be enemies? Why are you playing husband and wife now? I was texting with a brand and replied without looking up, because he begged me. Derek scratched his head, embarrassed. Back then, I slacked off in school, got disciplinary action, couldn't land a job. No connections, no skills, lazy, not even cut out to be an influencer. I hit rock bottom and thought of Victoria. Back in college, she was already running a business, shooting videos, savvy with both law and marketing. I begged her. She needed a husband for appearances, so she gave me a shot. She mapped out a sexy streamer path for me with safety boundaries. In return, I showed my body on camera, helping her sell the image of a successful man's wife. Riley nudged me, suspicious. You dare use someone like him? I kept scrolling. As long as he can work, that's all I care about. Riley shivered, inching away. Then she remembered something, her voice trembling. Didn't he try to hit on your sister at first? And you still let him stay around. Aren't you worried she'll get hurt? Derek grabbed his head. I didn't even get the chance. She caught me right away. Besides, she's in France, filming content for her sister. Barely comes back. Chloe clapped in amazement. That's insane! Twin power! Vanessa Hayes is out there studying and selling stuff in France, plus filming content for her sister. They switch off on camera and never slip up. Riley glitched out, her mouth stumbling over the words. What? Twins. A sister. I gently lifted the final curtain, my voice slow like telling a secret. All the travel videos? My sister filmed those while abroad on business. Me? I smirked and threw her a sly smile. I've never even been overseas. Riley's finger trembled, pointing at me. Then, last time when you said you were going to France, where'd you really go? I pushed aside a panel, the wood creaking open to reveal a hidden door leading to the room next door. Light spilled in, illuminating a cluttered workspace. Computers, video editing monitors, stacks of materials piled high. This is the filming room, I said calmly. That side is for editing. While you were staying in my house, I was here, head down, cutting footage. Riley froze, her eyes wide like they were about to fall out. I casually walked through the hidden door, arms full of new footage, ready to edit the next video. I had just posted a new video and pushed open the door to the studio. Chloe was chatting excitedly with Riley, her voice chirping like a bird. "You have no idea how many tricks Victoria has for saving money. She told us you're not just the hand double. You're also covering our year-end bonuses." Riley stood there stunned, holding a cup of coffee, her eyes wide like she'd just been slapped. "You mean those gifts I bought for you guys?" Chloe clapped her hands with a bright laugh, her high ponytail bouncing. "Exactly," she said. "Whatever we wanted, we should just tell you. You'd buy it for sure." Back then, Riley, desperate to get into my house and replace me, had pulled out all the stops. I took full advantage. Limited edition stationery for Chloe, diamond jewelry, and designer bags for Judith, all funded by Riley. Derek, leaning casually against the doorway, nodded happily. "And my gift?" "That would be you." Riley's face turned pale, her hand trembling like she was about to drop her coffee cup, looking like she needed emergency heart meds. She turned to me, eyes blazing. "Victoria Hayes, I want—" It was the first time she called me by my full name, grinding it out like it could tear the air apart. I strolled into the living room. All four of them froze. Chloe, Judith, and Derek, trying not to laugh, shoulders shaking, while Riley was fuming, breathing like she was about to explode. I cut in calmly. "The stats lately have been great. Riley's efforts have really paid off." Then I dropped a number, slow and cool like a pebble hitting a still lake. "Your bonus this month, $100,000. The room fell dead silent, as if time had stopped. Riley swallowed the words, "I'll kill you," right back down her throat, her face shifting from pale to flushed pink, like she'd just been Botoxed. She blinked, voice trembling but full of excitement. "Following you was the right move. Next time you run any scams, count me in. I'm totally on board." Chloe covered her mouth to hold in a giggle, a tiny pfft, escaping. Derek winked, and Judith twirled her diamond ring, smiling like a queen. Not long after, our video ran into a rival. A platinum blonde rich kid, wearing Gucci glasses, posted a TikTok mocking me, his voice full of swagger. "God, a billionaire's wife selling stuff online to make money? Don't ask me where I get mine. My dad gives it to me. I could spend for a lifetime and still not run out, so why bother working?" He stood next to a Lamborghini, champagne spraying like rain, posing like a self-proclaimed deity. The internet erupted. Some slammed him for being elitist and tone-deaf, but plenty cheered him on. People envied him, blamed fate, even fantasized about marrying rich to escape their lives. Some dug up info on his school, warning, "That school's just a money burner. He'll never earn that investment back." He replied, smug, "If you work that hard, come work for my company then." That attitude brought in massive attention. Riley, now fully loyal to my channel, created several sock accounts to clap back, typing furiously like a warrior. But her comments were quickly drowned out by the flood of likes on his. I didn't even look up from my editing screen, my tone casual. All intentional. The more controversial, the more views. Classic bait. Riley spun toward me, eyes blazing. "You mean he's faking it too?" "Break it down for me." I opened his latest video, champagne, Lamborghini, and a bold quote on screen. "Since I was little, I knew people weren't born equal. But two things made me believe in fairness: shame and death. Everyone lives with shame because their desires are never satisfied. And everyone, no matter who, must face death." Riley murmured, eyes lighting up like she'd struck gold. "The economy's crap. Business isn't that easy. Real estate is tanking. Tech's laying people off. No matter how good his dad is, how can he guarantee a perfect life forever?" I nodded, lips curling into a sharp smile. "Good thinking." Then I added, voice sharp as a blade. "Now think! His dad, a Wall Street-bred businessman, would he want his son to be a prodigy or some brat flaunting wealth online, exposing the whole family to the public eye?" Riley clenched her fist, slammed the table. Just giving birth to him was a failure. I applauded her. Exactly. Life's never as perfect as the lies make it seem. I leaned back, eyes sweeping the room. Human desire never stops. Money, power, status, health, youth. No matter how much we have, we want more. Those who claim life is effortless are just lying, using your envy to grab attention. I used to do it too. My lips curled into a bitter smile, like aged wine left open too long. Derek swallowed hard, voice strained. You sound just like your college self. Back then, I was fired up with justice, calling out inequality, using knowledge like a weapon after years of injustice. And now, Derek hesitated. What are you doing now? I let out a bitter laugh, lowered my head, my nails lightly scratching the wooden table, leaving faint marks. Chloe, voice hoarse, eyes glassy like she might cry. Victoria? Are you ashamed of anything? What do you want most? Her question cut deep, dragging me back into a nightmare. I saw rolling hills swelling like rising tides. I was on an old bus, its wheels screeching over dirt roads, forever trapped in the suffocating forest. Ravines yawned wide. Just one misstep, and you'd be swallowed whole. Vanessa and I ran and ran, escaping the mountain's grasp, severing our ties to an unfair bloodline, changing our names, planting our roots in concrete and steel. Civilization and order became our sanctuary. We swore we'd never go back. I looked up, voice calm but cold. What I'm ashamed of is being born there. I said the name of the tiny mountain town where the forest devoured Vanessa's and my childhood. What I want is to make so much money, I'll never have to go back. Don't let social media define your happiness. Look behind the facade. Who's profiting from your envy? Build a life of your own, even if it's small, as long as it's real. Because even a billionaire's wife, like me, is just a girl running from the mountains, trying her best not to look back. And remember, sometimes the best way to beat your desires is to admit them, then choose to live with what you already have. Thanks for listening. Like, share if you've ever felt envy scrolling online, and comment below. What's your biggest desire? Let's get through it together.